everybody, this is Defeater of Souls. Today we're going to be talking about games that are not Dragon Quest monsters. Now for anyone who has seen more than one video on my channel, this might come as a surprise, because that seems to be all I talk about on this channel. It's almost like it's what the channel is dedicated to. But maybe if you read the title of the video, you might be wondering what I am going to be talking about, and that is going to be Dragon Quest monsters adjacent Dragon Quest games. Now that's kind of a mouthful. What exactly do I mean by these Dragon Quest monsters adjacent Dragon Quest games? Well, to put it shortly, I'm going to be talking about Dragon Quest games that feature mechanics that allow you to befriend monsters. And I'll be talking about how well the ability to befriend monsters is implemented in each one of these games. As a result, these games are adjacent to Dragon Quest monsters because you can befriend these monsters, but they are not Dragon Quest monsters games because these are not the main focuses of the games. A few disclaimers here. I have a life. As such, I have not dedicated this life to just playing Dragon Quest games. So I have not beaten/played all of these games. Some or all of these games. As a result, there is a chance that any of this information could end up being inaccurate. If any information is found inaccurate, please let me know so I can correct this. I would not want to be going around spouting incorrect facts and use that to create a false ranking, unless it ends up working anyways. That all being said, what games exactly will I be ranking today? Well, the ability to recruit monsters was first introduced in the original Dragon Quest V, and from there it was in Dragon Quest VI, Dragon Quest VIII, and Dragon Quest X. Dragon Quest X might come as a surprise because it is Japanese exclusive, which means everything I'm using is based off what I can find when I was researching it. As such, this one in particular is especially prone to being incorrect, and if any of the rankings you don't trust, this is the one. Dragon Quest X definitely should have a few grains of salt with it. I'll also be talking about the Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake, which has new Dragon Quest monster style features added, and I will also be talking about the two spin-off games of Dragon Quest Builders 2, which seems to be a popular one with a few viewers on my channel, and I'll be talking about Dragon Quest Treasures. So that all being said, let's get started with the actual ranking. So, in a failed attempt at chronological order, we'll be starting with Dragon Quest V, Hand of the Heavenly Bride. Now, in Dragon Quest V, the whole recruiting monster thing was rather new, and since this was their first attempt at trying this and implementing it into the game, it was incredibly simplistic, almost hilariously so. In fact, all that's required in order to recruit monsters is for you to be lucky and for you to be a certain level. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I mean, how the whole recruitment works is basically, there is a selection of monsters that after you beat in battle, there is just a random chance that they will join your party if your level is high enough. That is it. There's nothing special. You don't throw Pokeballs, you don't throw meat at them and hope they like you. You don't try to impress them, you just beat them to a bloody pulp and hope they join you. There's absolutely no way to affect this without cheating, and yes, there are cheats you can use, even on the original SNES version, or Super Famicom version, that would allow you to get these, but even without them, you're just completely reliant on luck. As a result, it's not really a good implementation of the whole Dragon Quest Monsters thing, and it would be refined much further when the actual Dragon Quest Monsters franchise became an idea. As such, I'm going to put this in C tier. Now, a moment of clarification here for the entire video. Just because I do not like the monster mechanics in a game does not mean that it is a bad game. If it feels like I'm putting a game down just because it doesn't come to par with monster mechanics, then that is completely on me. These games can be plenty good, and some of them are so good that they probably don't even need these monster mechanics. Now, Dragon Quest V, it had the monster mechanics, but they were implemented poorly, which is a shame, because these monsters are incredibly useful for actually beating the game in my opinion, and most of them are stronger than human party members. So let's move on to the next game, Dragon Quest VI. This one is known as Realms of Revelation. Now, in the original version of Dragon Quest VI, it worked pretty much completely accurate to Dragon Quest V, with one extra caveat, is that one of your party members had to be the class Monster Master for you to even have a chance of recruiting any of these monsters. So that's kind of a shame, and it really hurts because it means you have to put even more time and effort just to getting these monsters. Now that being said, your party members are going to be more useful, the human ones at least, so maybe you'll need these monsters a little less. So for the original SNES Super Famicom version of Dragon Quest VI, I'm going to put it right below Dragon Quest Monsters 5. Once again, 6 is not a bad game, it's just monster mechanics are incredibly annoying to work with. Now, this was changed in the DS version and the cell phone version of Dragon Quest VI because it got remade, being an older game. Now, what the mechanics became was, instead of you actually being able to recruit these monsters with random chance, there were just slime buttons. These were slimes that were hanging around towns and dungeons, and you were just able to talk to them, and once you met certain criteria, you could all have them join your party. They could be used for a few things, but it was nothing really that special, and the selection is incredibly small, especially compared to the original selection of monsters in the SNES Dragon Quest VI and the monsters available in the Dragon Quest V games. You could also befriend Lizzie, but that's hardly the point. So this one's gonna be low C tier game. It's probably better than the random chance at Dragon Quest V, but it also just doesn't feel like monsters mechanics, you're just befriending slimes. So for the Dragon Quest VI DS version, it's going to be a C tier. That brings us on to Dragon Quest VIII. Dragon Quest VIII, also known as Journey of the Cursed Kings, will have multiple monsters wandering the overworld that you can defeat and befriend, but their use is not like that in Dragon Quest V in the old version of 6. You can't just add them to your party. Instead, you have to go through the Ori's Monstrous Pit arena in order to prove you're worthy of using these monsters. You'll use these monsters to form teams of 3s to compete in the arena, and once you've gotten far enough in the arena, you'll be able to get the skill Call Team. Call Team will allow you to summon your monsters to fight for your party, in a similar fashion to Dragon Quest monsters. Although this was refined a bit in the 3DS version, it wasn't changed enough for me to actually rank either of them separate. They are both really good ways of implementing monster mechanics into the game without it being the main focus of the game, but more of a side way to help you get some more defensive ways to help support your party if any of it's lacking in whatever shape or form it might. So I'm gonna say this is a nice A-tier way of implementing the monster mechanics in the game while still keeping it balanced. After Dragon Quest VIII, we have Dragon Quest X. Now, just trying to understand this one's gonna be a bit of a pain, so I'll try and keep it simple, and I'll probably shorten a few things. So once again, if you play Dragon Quest X, tell me where. Anyways, you can recruit some monsters if you're using the class Monster Wrangler, or an adjacent class known as the Item Monster, which is needed to get some robots or other inanimate objects that are now animate. Teaming is fairly simple, and by fairly simple I mean you have to use books in order to get moves, in order to get items, in order to use items, to use scouting attacks to get that particular breed of monster, just so you can befriend one of that monster, and it has only a base 10% chance of capturing that monster once it falls, but it doesn't have to be the final blow, and you can of course recruit up to 24 monsters at once, and once they are joined, they're controlled by the AI of the game, which I don't know how good it is because I've never played the game. The personality helps depend on what it does. A few other things, they can serve as party members if you're playing offline. They have a level cap, but you can upgrade them using some in-game mechanics, I'm sure. The equipment pool is kind of bad, but that's alright because you can equip the monsters with the same thing you have equipped to your hero, and there's about 30 of the monsters. Did you get all that? I hope so, because I'm not going to repeat it again. Either way, it's kind of a hot mess, but what else did you expect from an MMO that I could hardly understand and have had trouble finding stuff online for? So I'm just gonna say, in the sake of fairness, we'll throw it in B tier, and say if it's a good mechanic, then I just can't appreciate it because I'm stubborn or something. So let's move on to Dragon Quest Builders 2. Dragon Quest Builders 2 is a great game, and personally, I think it does a really good implementation of the Dragon Quest Monsters gameplay loop. What I mean is, after a certain point in the story, you'll have access to monster munchies. These munchies can be made incredibly simply. It can be used in some of the optional areas that you can go on to obtain materials and other things for your crafting in the game. these explorers shores that you're at, you'll just defeat certain monsters, and once you defeat the monsters, there's a chance that they'll stand up instead of dying immediately, and I'll have a quick timer. You'll use these munchies on the monsters and they'll befriend you. You'll be able to send them back to your base island or one of your other places that you have, and use them to help you build. They can do fun little things too. They're not just sitting around like monsters. Instead, they can help you create stuff, they can help you destroy stuff. Some of them can be used as mounts, others act like NPCs, like farmers or bartenders. So they're actually incredibly useful. This, in my opinion, is S tier. Now, why do I think it's S tier? Well, I think the main reason is that it not only includes the monster mechanics, but it does so in a way that directly benefits the gameplay of Dragon Quest Builders 2. You're able to get the monsters, and there's no reason not to get the monsters, because they can do things that some humans can't. It's incredibly hard to get mounts if you're never going to get any monsters, so they feature things that are not necessary, but incredibly fun to help improve the gameplay of the game. And of course, the more you play the game, the more monsters you'll have access to. It truly is just a win-win scenario. Now, this video has already gone longer than I thought it would, and we still have 2 games to talk about, so I'll try and keep it brief. Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake, has implemented some very simple monster mechanics. On the overworld and inside dungeons and hidden in towns, you're gonna find visible monsters that are hiding or some other form of just hanging around. And you're gonna have to do certain things. Maybe you need to smell a certain way, maybe you need food. Either way, you're gonna find a way to recruit these monsters. Now, you can't use these monsters at party members, and you can't call them to battle like you were able to in Dragon Quest VIII. What you can do is, once you've saved these monsters from the harsh world, you're gonna pit them in the arena in order to win fabulous prizes for yourself. That's right, the only use of these monsters is so you can build your own arena team in order to get a lot of money off of these definitely legal battling of endangered species. Now, is this a good implementation of the game? This monster mechanics? Well, that depends on what your personal opinion is. I think it's an interesting concept, but it's a little lacking, because if you're not really into the side content, or maybe not planning on using the Monster Wrangler class too much, you're really not going to have much reason to go to these arenas that are around the world. But if you are a big gambling fan and you like making sure the odds are in your favor, well, there's no reason not to enjoy this, so I'm gonna say it's probably a solid A-tier game's implementation of monster mechanics. That just leaves Dragon Quest Treasures. Now, Dragon Quest Treasures is interesting because it was initially teased as a Dragon Quest Monsters title, and for a while people thought, hey, we're finally getting another Dragon Quest Monsters game. Of course, that didn't actually happen until Dark Prince, but despite all that, you're still able to recruit monsters in the games. You'll do this by using your pellets from your slingshots to fire friendship pellets in the hope of recruiting these monsters that are around the world. These monsters can help you navigate the world in different ways, along with being able to see treasure, which you can use the Fortune Finder skill and a few other things in order to use the vision of the monsters to help find these. They're also going to be your main aspect of help in battle, along with whatever other twin you're not using. You'll have your 3 monsters help you fight any foes that you're up against. Now, what about all this? How is this any good? Well, it's alright. It's not the best implementation of the Dragon Quest Monsters whole aspect, but considering how it was probably a unique idea at the time, I guess you just kinda gotta live with what you have. It does implement Dragon Quest Monster style features, even though you can't recruit every monster in the game, which is, of course, seen in most of these other games, but considering how it was originally supposed to be a Dragon Quest Monsters game, it's a little underwhelming. That being said, it doesn't take away anything from the original game, and you definitely need these guys in order to actually play the game. They feature a much bigger role in this game than any of the other games we really talked about in this list, except maybe Dragon Quest V, which had a little too much reliance on these random monsters, but all in all, I'd say it's probably also A tier, because once again, it's not a bad implementation of the mechanic, but it's just feels a little like it's missing a little something that could have made it a really good Dragon Quest Monsters game. Instead, we got Dragon Quest Treasures, which is also a good game, don't get me wrong, it's just not Dragon Quest Monsters. So then, now that I'm done sharing my maybe controversial opinions, this is the end of what was a very long video in comparison to a few of my other ones. That all being said, if you want to see more content, especially things more like these tier lists, please let me know in the comments, and also let me know in the comments if there's any Dragon Quest games that also feature monster mechanics that maybe I didn't talk about, and I can make sure I bring them up in some future video. That all being said, you can subscribe if you want to, but I don't really care if you do, because my channel is so small it has such a little chance of becoming big that it really is just a matter of whether or not you want to see more content from me. Same deal with liking. If you just want to give it a thumbs up so more people see, go right ahead. If you want to give it a thumbs down because my video sucks, please do that if my video sucks. If it doesn't suck, then don't give it a thumbs down. That all being said, this was Defeater of Souls, and I hope you have a great day.